Once upon a time, in the heart of Cathara, the Druid lands, there was a town known as Dawnpillar. To the far south was the rough terrain of the Niadern Mountains. To the far east was the colossal lands of the giants. To the far west was the treacherous heavy rain forests of Forvale that were filled with ghosts and spirits. But the most dangerous of all, to the close north over the Retilian River, was the Catharian Hollow Plains, a land where no life sprouted, where the songs of birds singing would be an alien sound. It was dark year-round, clouded by ash in the sky. Mushrooms grew as tall as buildings. Colour was an unusual event, and not even the wind dared enter. However, none of this mattered to the people of Dawnpillar. They lived in a beautiful land. It was warm and hospitable. Colour and beauty was expected at every inch of their world. The birds and people sang alike from dusk till dawn. But in this town lived a small elven girl. She sat day in and day out in her room of thick walls and dim light. Why does she stay there, you may ask? Well, she kept there because she was very special. She wasn't forced to remain in solitude. In fact, it was quite the opposite. Her family urged her to leave that room and enjoy the wonderful life they lived, a life of ease and privilege and excitement. But the elven girl refused, for you see, she couldn't bear it. Outside, the lights and colours were so bright and overwhelming. The sounds were loud and sudden, and the people smiled and laughed for reasons the little elven girl could not understand. The world outside was scary and confusing. Her family couldn't understand how she could feel like that, how she could think of that, often telling her, sometimes you have to embrace scary. But yet she stayed, content and alone. Until one day, during the festival of the Banishversary, her family committed an act of absolute love and care. They burst her door down. They tore the shutters off the windows and ripped down the wall padding, a crime of passion. They grabbed the little elven girl and brought her outside to the beautiful celebrations of life and happiness, surrounded by people and vibrant decorations, the shouts of praise and the laughter of those far off. But despite all this, the little elven girl couldn't understand. Everything was so happy, but all she felt was pain. The sound hurt. The colours were stabbing, and she felt her heart racing and pulling her towards the ground. She covered her ears and closed her eyes tight as they would go, and shouted, "Why? Why did you do this to me?" To what she heard from her family was, "Sometimes you have to embrace scary. We did this because we want you to be happy, because we love you." But she ran and ran, not knowing where she was heading. Desperately trying to leave the herd behind, leaving the town behind her as she ran and ran and ran, not knowing that she was heading north. Eventually, she came to the Retilian River. Lost in the grasslands, she decided in for a copper, in for a platinum. And she pushed forward through the cold sensation of the river. Though it was painful, it was progress. Away from what had been done. Still trying to get to grips with what her family had done to her. How could they claim to love her but yet could do something that caused her such pain. Eventually, she saw the sky darken. The plants became more and more wilted and drained. It even became hard to remember the sounds of wildlife as she pressed forward into the hollow plains. The further she went, the quieter it got, until all she could hear was the frightful emptiness. That was broken by the sound of a wolf that jumped out from behind a dead black tree. It stalked towards the little elven girl, growling and snarling, looking forward to its first free, easy meal in weeks. Just as the wolf was upon the stunned and frozen little elven girl, an even larger, scarier creature appeared, and in an instant came between the wolf and the little elven girl. A huge orc stood facing the wolf and stared it down with his brow furrowed, and a deep, rumbling voice spoke. The wolf backed up and scarpered away like a little guilty puppy. The orc turned around and looked at the little elven girl, looking at her with a curious eye.
"Hello," he spoke. "Where have you come from?"
he asked. "I don't know," the little elven girl said gingerly.
"Well, where are you going?"
Again the orc questioned. "I don't know that either," said the little elven girl.
"Well then, what could have driven you all the way out here?"
"My family loved me, so much that they couldn't understand me."
"Well, let me guide you back,"
the orc offered. "No, please, I don't want to go back. I want to stay out here. It's peaceful, out in the still open air. There aren't any loud noises or constant bird songs, no laughing and screaming. The light is just dim enough, the colors are just dull enough that I can see the beautiful mountains and the ash in the sky and the mushrooms without stabbing pain and making my eyes weary."
"You can't stay out here, little elven girl. It's dangerous and scary out here,"
the orc insisted. "Why not? You stay out here," the little elven girl retorted. "And besides, sometimes you have to embrace scary." Though the little elven girl did love her family, and she missed her room, she knew she couldn't go back to a place that couldn't understand or accept her for who she was and what she wanted. And so the little elven girl stayed in the Hollow Plains. The orc brought her back to his hometown of Clawseed, and there she worked, living as a mushroom farmhand. Though the work was hard and tough, it brought her joy. To not be confined to her room by the world outside.